Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Okay, from yet another secret remote location, we have Chris O'Brien joining us. He's again on his iPhone. He hasn't really had time to play with the installation of Skype, but maybe for next week's episode. By the way, I should tell you, in a couple of weeks, first week of December, it'll be that weekend, we'll be featuring none other than Peter Robbins joining us. He has some new stuff out on the Rendlesham case. We'll ask him about a lot of stuff that's in December. A lot of good things are coming in the Paracast. Another good thing, and let me tell you here about a conversation I had with John Harmon, who is the program director at GCN. And I said, tell you what, John, would it be possible for us to distribute an ad-free, higher resolution version of the Paracast for folks who want to order a monthly subscription? And he talked to the big boss. And he came back, and this has taken a few years to get this to happen. He said yes. So that's the go-ahead. We finally got the go-ahead for this premium package called the Paracast Plus. Should we have a round of applause, Chris?
Yay!
I don't know.
Hey, it's a long time coming, Gene. I mean, come on. We've been talking about the possibility of this for a long time, and I'm really glad that, we're finally going to be able to offer a little bit more than the usual GCN broadcast and, add some cool chat room type things and some video. And, we're working on a bunch of ideas, and I'm pretty excited about it, actually.
This is going to be really fascinating. We have 3 episodes up already. With this episode, there'll be 4 episodes of the show up at Paracast Plus. And that's a place where to access that area, you subscribe. And we didn't want you to have to pay a lot of money for a subscription. And I know some people charge an arm, a leg, and a foot. So we figured, you know what? What does $5 buy you in a month?
He said, don't go to Starbucks.
Yeah, well, that's it. You get a Frappuccino at Starbucks, it's $5. So for the price of a Frappuccino at Starbucks, and maybe it's more now. I haven't been to Starbucks in a while. I don't pay these rich amounts for coffee. I just think you go to the coffee maker and you pour the coffee. Forget it. In any case, for $5, you get the weekly episodes of the Paracast. It's $1.25 per episode, plus all the other stuff that we're going to be adding. We have the chat room open now. We have a chat room open now when you enter Paracast Plus. It's not really populated with anything. It's just in test mode. We'll fix that as we progress. We'll be adding videos, special conferences, all sorts of stuff, and we welcome your suggestions. $5 a month, Paracast Plus. If you want to do it for a full year, it's $50. $50 for a full year. And that's probably less than you pay for 1 month's service with your broadband provider. All right?
Yep. Yeah, sounds like a bargain to me.
And here's how you do it. We set up a special page to explain how to subscribe to Paracast Plus. It's called plus.theparacast.com. That's the site. Plus, P-L-U-S, not the symbol, plus.theparacast.com. You'll learn all about the Paracast Plus, how to sign up, and with direct links so you can do it, how to download the show, how to add it to your iTunes library, all sorts of stuff. And we're open to your suggestions. Remember, this is a work in progress. It's going to get better. I know Chris has got a lot of ideas, and we'll be working them over. This is going to be fun. So anyway, Chris, you've been on the road for like almost a month now.
Right. My longest trip away from home, and I can't remember the last time I was away a month. I hope my kiddies remember me.
You have someone taking care of the kiddies?
Of course, I have someone taking care of them. And when I come back, I expect that they'll be really friendly for about a day, and then they'll go back to their normal, aloof kitty behavior. But it's good. I had a great trip. Had a wonderful group that's been touring around the planet, the power spot locations, doing guided meditation. It was a real education for me, and we can discuss this more in future episodes. But I really do feel that there is an imperative right now to take some of these wonderful locations that we find all over the planet and tap into them and tell them it's okay. The planet's going through a lot of stuff right now, and I think coherent meditation, those types of things, have tremendous potential. I've been down on, certain individuals in the field of ufology using it for self-aggrandizing purposes, but to do it in a way that honors nature, that honors the planet, I think is very immensely positive. I had a great time. It was really, really wonderful. I really, really enjoyed my time away, and this was, beginning of, possibly a process that's going to be continued by others around the world. And, I wish the group who I guided, a tremendous amount of success and luck, because I really felt a real heart connection with these folks. I mean, they really were, it was a joy to be with them. And I just can't, I'm just sitting here at the end of, 3 weeks with them and for 2.5 weeks. And I just feel really, jazzed. I really feel, I don't know how to put it. I just feel invigorated from the experience, and that's a good thing.
I hear that in your voice. I know that before you left, you were getting a little bit tired. And of course, you were trying to do a lot of work. You spent all that time doing the book, Stalking the Herd, and you're trying to take stock of everything. But you do sound more optimistic. Before we introduce our guest for this week, I wanted to ask you about the Travis Walton event, Skyfire. How did that work out?
Well, it just so happened that we were able to work the schedule of the tour group around my parents' Friday, past Friday, a week ago Friday, to be up there in Beaver, Arizona. It was kind of down home. It was funky. The digs were, need some improvement. I think by and large, though, that the folks that did attend were very positive. I only heard 2 presentations. I was only there for a number of hours. But from the scuttlebutt that I'm hearing, from the completed conference, a lot of positive comments. I think that they may have to change the venue if they want to continue this in years to come. There are some logistical issues being in Beaver. But I think the vision and the presentations, and there's a lot of potential there. And I think a lot of people, will support this. And I wish Travis much luck with this. He's a really nice guy. Controversial, of course, the case, but I think by and large it was invigorating to be in that environment with all those folks and speakers. So I really think that there's some potential there.
Okay, Skyfire Summit, and that's Travis Walton. A lot of really fascinating speakers. And it sounded like it would have been fun if I'd gone up there, but of course I'm not the kind of person who likes to do that kind of travel across mountains.
They could have picked you up in a shuttle bus, Gene.
I was thinking you would drive me out, or somebody would take me there in a helicopter.
That would be the ideal, wouldn't it?
A black helicopter.
It's not that far away. So I think you could have handled it, actually.
Well, of course, I'll try. I've never driven across mountain roads in a Kia. We'll see what happens. This week on the Paracast, we bring back an old friend of ours who's actually one of the moderators of the forum, a longtime UFO researcher, host of the Dark Matters radio show, the one and original, not that imitation that Art Bell character came out. That's none other than Don Ecker. And he comes on the show like once a year or so. We kind of catch up with him because he always has a lot of outspoken opinions on a variety of subjects. We can continue our discussion about lunar mysteries with him, for example, and the state of the UFO field. I'm sure he's going to be down on it. And we have a bunch of questions to ask of him. We have a few from our audience. We didn't give you too much warning, unfortunately, but I think it's going to be really cool, Don Ecker, because whatever you ask him, he's got an answer, and we are on opposite points of the political spectrum. So we might end up strangling each other before the episode is done. So if you want to hear an online strangulation on the Paracast, this is going to be the time. Right, Chris?
Yeah. Don is, is a wonderful character. Immense respect for him, and he does have his opinion, definitely.
Right. He's a cool guy. I like him. Don Ecker coming up next with Gene and Chris. You're in.
The Paracast.
So here's what happened. I was placing an order online. The site went down. It took hours before it returned, but I'd already placed the order with another company. If your site goes down, you could lose business. And if you have a business or personal site, you'll want to know it's easy to run and it will stay online. At iWeb, your site is hosted on one of the most reliable networks in the world. Talk to a sales rep at iWeb.com. Use the promo code TechNightOwl for a special discount.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Mike Stenerson from Midas Resources. At no time in history have precious metals been more important, certainly not in my 22 years in the industry. The dollar has lost over 90% of its value in the last 60 years. No fiat currency has ever survived the government printing presses. Ours is not immune. The time is now to be proactive. 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. Anything tied to the dollar is at risk. CDs, annuities, 401ks, IRAs, stocks, bonds, you name it, so decide. Do you want to leave a legacy of wealth or debt for your family? The choice is yours. Call me at 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. That's 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. Be proactive, not reactive. Call 1-800-686-2237, extension 116.
This alert just came in. This special announcement is for business owners and leaders of organizations who've been waiting for the right time to build. General Steel has made it impossible to wait any longer with rock-bottom prices that could save you thousands. That's right, General Steel, America's leader in pre-engineered structures, is offering buildings at prices you will never see again. Don't miss these prices. A 50 by 100 for $35,000. You heard right. That's 5,000 square feet for $35,000. Manufacturers, if you need a larger building, try a 100 by 100 commercial building for $129,000. You can't afford to rent with these prices. Imagine a 70 by 100-foot church building for under $69,000. With the economy improving and interest rates still at historic lows, you can't afford to wait. So call 866-91-STEEL. Lock in your price now. Call 866-91-STEEL. That's 866-917-8335.
What good is a Big Berkey water filter?
We get that question a lot here at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. And in a word, the answer is protection. Protection from water main breaks, E. coli contamination, environmental chemical spills, pesticide runoff, chlorine taste and smell, and all forms of fluoride. Plus, Big Berkey water filters are the original gravity water filter system and most trusted on the market for a reason. Tested by multiple independent NSF EPA certified labs, they are the gold standard in water purification. At only 1.7 cents a gallon, a single set of filters can last for 5 to 10 years. That means big savings. Big Berkey, the one that's powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water. Get a Big Berkey today at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. GCN listeners receive 5% off all ceramic filter systems. Visit our website or call 1-877-99-BERKEY. That's 877-99-BERKEY. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
We have the one, the only Don Ecker, and I sometimes ask him, what would you be like? What would your life be like if you had a real doppelganger, a second one like you? Would you celebrate that or consider that your worst nightmare?
Well, up on the Paracast, somebody did put a thread up there about Don Ecker, the Rain Man or something. So maybe I do.
Wow.
I don't think so, Don. There's only one. There's the only Don Ecker.
How are you guys doing?
Well, of course, we've been busy here. We just introduced a new service called Paracast Plus. You already have access, by the way. When you go back to the forums, you see this little plus icon. That's where you get the ad-free versions of the show in a higher resolution. We gave you a free subscription.
Oh, wow.
That's right.
Real great. Will you send me gas money next?
Well, you see,
the price of gas has come down, Gene.
It does, but what kind of mileage do you get on your truck?
I've got a Jeep, a 21-year-old Jeep. So
you get 4 miles a gallon.
You know how much gas is here in New Mexico? $2.49. Can you believe that?
I get about roughly 15 miles to the gallon, I guess.
Okay, I get just shy of 30 on the Kia regular. It's about $2.65 is one of the cheaper prices we have in Mesa. But if you go to Scottsdale, they add a dime because Scottsdale is a ritzier neighborhood over here. But anyway, we shouldn't be talking about that. Let's talk about, okay, so seriously speaking.
The ugliest thing west of the Mississippi River. So one thing I don't worry about is anybody wanting to carjack it.
This is the one where they reject it. The carjackers say, oh, get away from this one.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, I know that. Okay. Well, I have to think about that. Okay. Anyway, I was going to ask you something here. As you know, this magazine you were formerly associated with Vicky, called UFO Magazine, it basically is gone forever. The print version stopped. And there was this note you recalled, Don, where they said that the company who owned the name UFO Magazine told Bill and Nancy Burns they could no longer publish the magazine after it had begun to appear very infrequently, which is, of course, the big symptom of a magazine going under is suddenly the publication schedule goes down the tubes. And then they came back online and they said, we're going to do a digital version. And there's nothing new, unusual about digital versions because this is where the publishing industry is going. A lot of magazines now are giving up print, giving up killing trees, and going all digital, so they just kill bandwidth or something. So, for example, in the technology field, we have PC World and Mac World, all digital now, that kind of thing. So I guess they had hoped to have a digital version of UFO Magazine, but now the site ufomag.com is under construction, which means it's kaput. So what's your feeling about all this, Don?
Well, you understand that Vicky, my wife, was the original founder and publisher of UFO Magazine. We owned the magazine solely for about 11 years when, the cost of publishing got to the point where we had to take business partners. So we were involved with the magazine up through 2006 actively. But then after 2006, we were no longer involved. So a lot of what happened in there, quite honestly, I was not privy or not there to see. As a matter of fact, I haven't personally had any contact, and neither has Vicky actually, with the Burns now going on about 8 years. But during that period of time, after the magazine began appearing infrequently, I knew that the people that owned the copyright to the magazine had a stipulation in there that it had to be published specifically on due dates. And if something occurred where the magazine was not published at any point, they had the right to yank it. Now, I knew a lot of people were still buying subscriptions to the magazine, and they started coming to Vicky and I guess not knowing that we were no longer a part of the magazine, but they began coming to us saying, well, look, we sent subscriptions in there and we have received nothing. We've received no word. I've tried to contact somebody. Nobody has gotten back to me. What's the deal? Well, it was my understanding that Nancy Burns, who was then billing herself as the editor-in-chief, had taken a year off to write a novel or a book. And basically, even though people were still buying subscriptions, people that had subscriptions were getting no satisfaction. They weren't receiving the magazine. They weren't being, or at least the ones that contacted Vicki and I, were not hearing from anybody at UFO Magazine. So the bottom line was, basically, they just shined it on, I guess. Well, after she got her book completed, they came back, and I believe they may have published 1 or 2 electronic copies, but then it just basically dried up. It blew away. So the bottom line is that all those people that bought subscriptions that never received any magazines were just basically out the money. It was, and the other thing was, it was at such an amount that people, I guess, figured it would be, more cost ineffective to them to go out and go to small claims court or something than it would be to just absorb the loss. So they basically allowed the magazine to go down the tubes.
Well, one of the things that some magazines have done in the past is to get in touch with another magazine and make a deal. Say, look, we're out of business. Would you take over our subscribers? I did that a couple of times with Caveat Emptor. When I had that magazine, it had 2 incarnations, and when it went under, we had to make that deal. Now, unfortunately, I made a deal with one person who agreed to fulfill the subscriptions, and he never did, so that got to be kind of messy. But that is the other thing that could have been done. I don't understand why they didn't do it. I don't know how many subscribers they had. It had to have a few thousand who ordered subscriptions.
Well, I can tell you that after we left and the direction that the magazine was going, people were dropping off because when Vicki and I had published the magazine, we had gone after cases that were ongoing in the field, personalities in the field. We were doing things every issue, like book reviews on new books coming out.
You were doing basically a real magazine, but let's get into more of this in a moment. We have Don Ecker of the Dark Matters radio show. I'm Gene Steinberg with Chris O'Brien. You're in
Paracast. Independently leading the way for the nation. Compelling talk for every political persuasion. We are GCN.
Is there a secret UFO agenda? Do strange creatures from the darkest corners of the mind roam the earth? Is there evidence for mind control, time travel, or devious government conspiracies? Find out the inside scoop on the latest conspiracies, paranormal activity, and Freudian phenomena when you subscribe to Tim Beckley's Conspiracy Journal. It's jam-packed with stories, special book and DVD promotions, and the best news, it's absolutely free, sent right to your mailbox. Plus, a bonus free email newsletter sent out every Friday. Simply send an email with your name and address to Mr. UFO at webtv.net. That's Mr. UFO at webtv.net. Find out what they don't want you to know.
You haven't experienced yogurt until you've tried a Mossy, embodying health and flavor in a true whole milk, grain-fed dairy beverage. Every sip pays homage to our old world cows and the ancient culturing methods their milk benefits from. With over 30 probiotics, a Mossy's undeniably nutritious, refined, cultured sensation bolsters your health and awakens your passion for dairy. A Mossy's so good, and you need to try it. Contact your Youngevity distributor or call 877-878-4203 or go to gcnteam.com.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows. Pause and rewind live TV. Even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 3 square meals you'll need in an emergency. So the Freeze Dry Guys 3 square meal unit sale is just the ticket. A variety pack of tasty, nourishing breakfast, lunch, and dinner on sale now. Breakfast is Freeze Dry Guys' favorite. Hot oatmeal and sweet dehydrated bananas. Lunch is Mountain House freeze-dried hot macaroni and cheese and crisp green beans. And dinner is Mountain House long grain wild rice pilaf and hearty beef stew, vegetables, and gravy. Call Freeze Dry Guy and ask for details on the 126 serving 3 square meals unit. One case normally $164.37, sale price at only $138.90. Save over $25. Get 2 or 3 cases and save even more. Or ask about Freeze Dry Guys Fall Chili Special. Always free shipping to the lower 48 states. Call 866-404-3663 or click freezedryguy.com. And hurry, the Fall Chili Special and 3 square meals unit are on sale while supplies last. From the Freeze Dry Guy, the finest freeze-dried and dehydrated foods available for long-term storage, period.
This is Jacques Vallée. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Chris O'Brien, once again at a secret remote location somewhere in Timbuktu or something like that, or Newark, New Jersey. We haven't really figured out.
No, Santa Fe.
Santa Fe. Okay. That sounds like a nice place. I have to visit Santa Fe one of these days. We have Don Ecker joining us. We're talking about the failure of UFO Magazine. And you were telling us, of course, the approach you took, which is to, of course, practice journalism. You investigate UFOs. You have reports about UFO cases, about the people involved in the field. You have book reviews. It was a real magazine. And then what happened when it was taken over?
It basically got to the point where they were covering fewer and fewer cases. I believe pretty much they stopped doing things like book reviews, and it became basically a magazine of everybody's opinion. Very, very little research was going on, very little investigation of cases, and the type of thing that, Vicki and I had done for years that really put the publication on the map when we were publishing. So,
cutting edge research. Breaking stories. That's all important.
Right. Everything has a shelf life. And today with the internet, I think a lot of people, even though you're not going to even begin to get a small bit.
Of course, a big problem with the internet is basically to monetize it, to put a value on the content that you present. So, of course, they have to charge a fair price for their services, and they deserve to get paid. But as you say, it's difficult to monetize things online. Not that it's impossible. A lot of it is maybe getting advertising. We go through this all the time with the Paracast and the Tech Night Owl Live, which is, of course, we have to eat. How do you monetize this thing? How do you treat people fairly? You charge a fair price for what you do. but of course you want to deliver something that's first-rate quality, which is, of course, the big problem here.
Yeah, it's a tough nut to crack. A lot of people, thousands and thousands of people, are still out there trying to figure out how to break through that internet thing. Whoever finally comes up with a fail-safe way of doing it, boy oh boy, are they gonna make a bundle of cash?
You mean like Facebook?
Exactly.
Well, certainly Apple knows how to mine the internet. Apple makes a lot of money. Google, Microsoft is starting to come back after a period where they've had problems. So they found a way. But in any case here, the real question here is, in the situation we have now, is it possible at all for there to be an online UFO-oriented publication that will cover all the needs of a reader who wants high-quality investigative material and informed opinion?
Are you asking me if I think it's possible?
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you. At this point, I would guess no. And one of the primary reasons I would say that is that basically UFO research these days, Gene and Chris, is, in my opinion, a lost art. There are very, very, very few people out there today that basically can conduct an investigation. They have no idea how to go about it. Most people's idea of UFO investigating is sitting at home in front of their computer screen, going to their search engine, putting in a few terms, and then reading whatever happens to be on the web. And that, believe me, is no way to go about it. You've got to be able to, and ask Chris, you've got to be able to get out into the field, into the weeds, up to your elbows in the topic in order to do anything that even comes close to performing justice for the topic. And there are,
I agree. Absolutely.
Very, very few people willing to do that.
Well, in journalism in general, there's very little investigative reporting. Right now, it's just a matter of quoting what people say, calling somebody else to get a balanced opinion, which I call false balance because sometimes you get pretty ridiculous counter opinions. That passes for journalism, but people just going out there and basically beating up the shoe leather to try to find out what's going on, you don't have a lot of that. And that's not obviously just UFO research. That is journalism in general. It's like a dead art.
Look at Cheryl Atkinson, for example. Now, there was an investigative journalist.
Yeah, all right. Before we get on, I'm going to disagree with you on her worth, especially in one particular example, which is why I'd rather we don't discuss Cheryl Atkinson. I'll give you that example where she has this picture of her computer supposedly being hacked and ends up being a stuck backspace key that keeps backspacing. So give me another example, please. I just don't want to get into an argument about it, okay?
Why don't you allow me to finish my thought, Gene, before you jump on?
If you want to mention her as an example, if you feel that she was mistreated by CBS, go ahead.
Cheryl Atkinson is an investigative journalist. She's a damned fine investigative journalist. She was the person that really shined a light on that abortive and abortioned Fast and Furious gun running scheme, where the Department of Justice and others were running guns down to the Mexican cartels across the border and into Mexico in, according to them, an effort to trace where these firearms were going.
Now, you know the Bush administration did the same thing, right?
Wrong. The Bush administration had, yes, a operation where they were running guns into Mexico. However, the one thing that nobody that loves to bash the Bush administration ever mentions is the fact that the Bush administration had each of those firearms that they ran down there tagged so they could be traced as soon as they were picked up or recovered. They knew immediately.
All right, let's do this here. I know you want to make a point about her, but forget the stuff because we can argue about the issues about Fast and Furious. But let's talk about her and the reaction to what she did. Because you're saying the point being here is here's somebody produces a piece of work, and we can argue about whether it's good work or not so good work. Assuming it is good work, what happened?
Gene, I got to tell you, I'm getting a little irritated here. The bottom line that I was trying to get to before I was continuously interrupted is the fact that the more she began to shine a light on that operation, okay, the more resistance she got at CBS because, as we all know or should know, there are a lot of very close familial relations that go directly into the Obama administration. But we aren't here to discuss that. We're to discuss how investigative journalism is no longer an art that is practiced very frequently in our present-day society. Atkinson was eventually frozen out because she wouldn't take no for an answer. She was targeted not only by her bosses at CBS, but she was targeted by elements within the federal government and the administration because she was in the process of embarrassing them. Now, the Obama administration has targeted a tremendous number of reporters. As a matter of fact, there's one right now.
The most on record, I think, Don.
Yeah, okay, that we don't disagree about. Let's ask more about this in our next segment with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast. You're listening to GCN, proudly sponsored by UnseenNow.com. Lock down your digital life at UnseenNow.com. This is GCN.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
The experts at Web.com want to build your business a successful website for free, just like we did for these current Web.com customers.
We've used and looked at other website designers, but there's nobody better than Web.com.
Web.com can build your website in as little as 7 days free. Plus, we'll promote it on all the major search engines like Google, Yahoo, and Bing. If after 30 days you're happy, we'll continue to provide promotion, hosting, support, and maintenance, all for one low monthly fee. If not, cancel and pay nothing.
If you're in business today and you don't have a web presence, you won't be taken seriously.
Call right now and you'll also get a free .com or .net domain name for your new website, powered by VeriSign, the world's leading domain name provider.
Call 800-297-0154. That's 800-297-0154.
No upfront charge for site build, after which ongoing fees apply. Rights to site are relinquished when canceled. Domain included during active service, after which fees apply.
That's 800-297-0154.
On Facebook, on the news, and in conversations with friends, we're bombarded every day with advice on how to be healthier, from gluten-free and non-GMO diets to how much exercise and sleep the body needs. But how much have you heard about alkalizing the body? AlkaVision Plasma pH drops are a holistic and natural way to get your body's pH levels back in balance. Just a few drops in water will help your body rid itself of harmful waste. And even the healthiest of diets can be complemented with your daily use of AlkaVision Plasma pH drops. Who isn't looking for more vibrance, vigor, and energy? Now buy 2 bottles of AlkaVision Plasma pH drops and get $10 off your order. Visit alkavision.com or call 800-518-7615. AlkaVision Plasma pH drops are packed with a powerful combination of the most alkaline minerals and compounds. Open the door to greater health, vitality, and zest for life. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health. Call 800-518-7615 or head to alkavision.com.
Do you have relatives and friends that are convinced there is no need ever to prepare for any kind of emergency? Are these also folks you buy Christmas presents for? At 30dayfoodsupply.com, we can solve both of these problems at the same time. Go to 30dayfoodsupply.com or call 541-229-0010. We can ship your Christmas presents directly to them. Choose from our original 30-day food supply, our long-term storage vegan burger mixes, or other oatmeal, soups, porridges, beans, and granolas for everyday use. All products are non-GMO, MSG-free, and vegetarian. Most are gluten, soy, and nut-free. Call 541-229-0010 today. Oregon Trail Foods and 30dayfoodsupply.com keep prices low, cutting out the middleman by buying directly from their producers in Oregon. Remember, only $10 ships your entire order to the lower 48. Visit the website 30dayfoodsupply.com. Call 541-229-0010. 30dayfoodsupply.com, 541-229-0010.
This is Leslie Kane, and I'm with the Coalition for Freedom of Information, and you are listening to the Paracast.
Now, forgetting the fact that Don Ecker and I probably disagree a lot about this, I do agree here that different administrations target the media, and it's not just the current one, but the current one appears to be doing it worse. We can go through history here. They want to control the message, and as the media plays a larger part, they want to take control and have their message, their spin to be presented.
They are the corporate entities that dictate editorially to the media outlet. So let's make sure we define who they are.
Right. It's not necessarily just politicians who want to spin their own message. It is also the fact that the media today is controlled by huge corporations. Profit and losses are all they care about. They do not care about journalism. And this is not like the conservative media, the liberal media. It is any major corporation that runs a newspaper or a TV outlet with a lot of news. There is a very big incentive there to allow for the corporations to send their spin on things.
And the bottom line is more and more of the American public are being turned off by that very fact. That's why CBS, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, why most of the networks today have practically no viewership. Newspapers across the United States are dying a slow death everywhere. People just basically, and the internet is another example, people today get much of their material, their news material from the internet. So
from the Daily
a lot
Show,
of people.
the Colbert Report.
Don, the thing to bear in mind also is look at the demographics. So, for example, any of the cable TV networks caters to a really older audience, like Fox, I think, is what the average is, 65. And we can say MSNBC might be a little younger, but not that much younger. They're catering to middle age and senior citizens. All the cable news networks, they're not really getting the kids. And as Chris was about to say, you know, The Daily Show, basically a comedy show with political overtones, that reaches the younger people, the prime demographic for advertisers.
Yeah. And we have, as a result, an extraordinarily dumbed down population. People that
you think, Don?
Huh?
I mean, that's an understatement if I ever heard one.
Yeah. Well, this is a family show. Otherwise, I might have described it in another way, but
okay. continue.
And then here's something you'll appreciate. There was this recent story quoting the head of the FBI and some other people complaining about the fact that Apple with iOS and Google with Android in their latest operating systems were encrypting all the data on smartphones. So if the government wants to get your smartphone and do what they do on TV all the time, which is, unlock it and get all the information, you can't do it. It's all encrypted. So, of course, obviously, if you do something where you could crack the password and get into the system, you might get something. But they've basically made it more difficult for hackers to break into your smartphones, but they also have blocked the government. And Tim Cook of Apple has famously said he's not going to do anything about it. And I'm sure the guys over at Google feel the same way.
Wait a minute, Gene. You're saying that the government doesn't have an already in place backdoor to cell phones, iPhones, Samsung phones? I have a hard time believing that.
Well, let's just say they claim not to have it. That might be just spin. I don't know.
Okay.
Sure. Well, they can pull your text right out of the air. They can pull any telephone call you make or receive right out of the air. It's my understanding that they do, not necessarily to just simply read them or listen to them, but they have them on file. So we live in an Orwellian state.
Do you remember the movie Enemy of the State, the Will Smith movie with Gene Hackman and Jon Voight, Don?
Yes.
Jerry Bruckheimer movie, where this lawyer gets a hold of a piece of information he shouldn't have. And the NSA or whatever, they're following him everywhere. They've got the surveillance cameras and they're tracking his cell phone. And you think about this late 90s movie, and there isn't anything in that movie that really isn't true right now.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like back in the early 90s, I can remember talking to some people that were allegedly in the position to know that, hey, did you ever used to watch Star Trek? And then he was talking about the original series. And I said, sure. He said, I can tell you that everything Captain Kirk did in that series, we can do today. Oh, really? So take that for what it's worth. But in many ways, the guy was correct. Kirk's communicator, McCoy's diagnostic bed, all that stuff today is in service. Anybody that has a cell phone, there's your communicator. The medical equipment that is available today, providing you have Obamacare and can access it, all that stuff is available.
But we don't have warp drive, do we?
Do we?
I'm asking you. That's the one invention we haven't come up with yet. Or maybe we have.
Maybe we have. Maybe it's sitting somewhere in a deep, dark underground cavern. I would not be actually in the least bit surprised if we had the capability and the wherewithal to go to the stars if that was something that someone chose to do. According to Ben Rich, 20 years ago, Ben Rich, of course, the guy that at the time was heading up the Skunk Works, we had it. He said on the record that we had the ability to take E.T. home. So take that for what it's worth.
Well, there's a TV show coming out this December called Ascension on the Sci-Fi Channel. And the position is that allegedly there was a secret program in the early 60s which sent a number of people, like a city-sized spaceship, on the road to the stars. And it was kept hidden from everybody. As if, for example, the space program that we had was mostly the cover story. It was a simplified version. And even now we have stories about a secret space program going on. What's your feeling about that, Don Ecker?
Once again, of course, I have no knowledge one way or the other, but if I had to guess, did we have that available to us? And when I say available to us, I'm speaking primarily from a military intelligence standpoint. I would be fairly comfortable in saying I would not want to bet against it. I think that it's very conceivable that we have something that would basically cause all of us to take a real deep breath and our eyes bulged out if we knew it. Even looking at mundane current avionics, what we have that we know about is mind-blowing when you consider that it's only been a century, 100 years, or a little over 100 years, since mankind took his first airplane flight. We've already been to other planets. We've been to the moon. We've been to Mars. Hell, we just landed a spaceship on a comet. Unmanned, of course. But if we can do that, God only knows what we might have the capability of doing if push came.
Right. Well, what was Ben Rich's famous quote? We have the, what did he say? We have the way to take E.T. home or something
Yes,
to that effect.
That's correct. We have the ability to take E.T. home. Now, for someone like Ben Rich to make a remark like that, it should have galvanized news services all across the United States. My God, as far as that goes, around the world. And it basically didn't. This topic, this subject, has a built-in, I used to say that any, especially huge UFO cases that broke into the mainstream, like STS-48, for example.
Let's continue with that example in our next segment. Don Ecker of Doc Matters, very outspoken gentleman with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast. Great minds think alike. The network for the independent-minded. The Genesis Communications Network. GCN. For all our loyal listeners, it's time for another giveaway. Over the next 30 days, our friends at supernaturalsilver.com are giving away 6 16-ounce Supernatural Silver liquid valued at nearly $100 per bottle, or their skin and body gel priced at $49.98. All you have to do is enter and win at GCNlive.com. Hurry, contest ends December 5th. GCN can give you and your loved ones a fighting chance with the Supernatural Silver giveaway at GCNlive.com.
We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit, then carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Hi, Ted Anderson. I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
You pick up the receiver with your heart racing and sweat dripping from your forehead. You finally muster the courage to dial the number to call into your favorite talk radio show. It rings once, twice, and then...
Hello, it's GCN. What's your name and the state you're calling from?
Surprised you got through, you squeak out.
Jason from Minnesota.
Please hold.
As you patiently wait for your turn, you begin to daydream about being a famous talk radio host and what it would be like to have your own show.
Jason from Minnesota, you're up.
Millions of loyal listeners worldwide waiting to call and talk to you.
Caller, are you there?
Cheering crowds surround you, calling out your name.
Jason! Jason! Going once, twice. Okay, we gotta move on to the next caller.
You blew it.
Huh? Wait, no!
Interact with the host you're listening to right now, online at GCNlive.com. Click on the community link. Engage with other listeners. Ask questions. Start debates. Don't agree with the host? Let them know. Be a part of the community at GCNlive.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Okay, Don Ecker had started something, and as we always do when we have to do a break, the breaks are hard, the breaks are solid. Let's continue on the Paracast. Don?
Outspoken.
Actually, he's a shrinking violet.
Yeah, that's what my wife told me all the time.
Yeah, I'll tell you, he is a pussycat with his wife because, if he tried to talk back at her, it's all over.
Hey, boy, she gets on me like a coat of paint. But
next time I see Gene, I'm going to smack him for you for that one, Don.
You and which army?
But anyway, UFO cases, remarks like what Ben Rich made, remarks like people like Gordon Cooper made prior to their demise, these things never seem to stick. I always used to use the term a blanketing effect. These things seem to come out and almost immediately dissipate. Nobody pays attention to them. The STS-48 case is a prime example. There was a situation that came directly from none other than NASA during a space shuttle mission, STS-48, back in September of 1991, that encountered an unknown in Earth orbit. And something seemed to suggest that there was a weapons firing at this unknown object, not from the shuttle, but from somewhere else. And this object took an immediate evasive action. Now, when I got my hands on that video, I took it to producers both at NBC and CNN. They both ended up running major stories on that. And the bottom line was nobody in the mainstream press, either TV or print media, seemed to give one hoot about this. And it was a huge story. I was certain at the time this had to be the smoking gun. But later there were several other cases that were as big as that. One above the skies of O'Hare Airport in Chicago, where an unknown object, a UFO, an unidentified object, blew a perfect donut hole through clouds. It was very overcast, right above the airport, where international traffic, air traffic, was coming and going all the time. Basically nothing about that. Another case where an unidentified was flying towards Stevensville, Texas, directly at the ranch of President George Bush. And it was a brief splash in media for a couple of days, and then nothing. Now, can you imagine if it would have been any other thing? A terrorist attempt to attack those places, for example, would have been a major story for, weeks or months. But a UFO, it's here and it's gone.
Do you ever wonder, though, Don, to be very conspiratorial, where sometimes when you hear about UFOs, it's a cover story for something else?
All the time. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, what do you think they're covering up?
Well, in many cases, I think in years past, it may have very well been UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, prototypes of things like drones. The F-117 stealth aircraft was another example until they released it. This material was top secret. Military projects. It could be today, it could be basically anything. That's why I so often suggested when I was giving a public lecture or was doing media in other venues that the real golden age when this idea that it could be a top secret project of some kind was not as prevalent as it is today. Back in the late 40s, the early 50s, I mean, at that time, we barely had aircraft that we, of course, know about, but, experimental aircraft until sometime later. It was unlikely that they would achieve a much higher speed than Mach 1, a little over 700 miles an hour. But aircraft that was tracked going thousands of miles an hour in the early 50s, there's nothing to suggest we had anything that could approach those types of speeds then. So whatever we were seeing then was truly unknown.
Well, of course, we can always say, to be skeptical just for a second, that some of those estimates of really high speeds were fabricated to advance the disinformation.
No, not in the cases I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of people like Major Don Kehoe in several of his books that he wrote back then, where he and people like Dick Hall were able to get into Project Blue Book, talk to the people that at the time were keeping those records and made those records available for a while. Even Jim Moseley had contacts within Blue Book.
He had very regular contact. He'd get there like every year or so. He'd go to Washington, D.C., and he got to be friendly with some of those guys. But there's a very famous story there when Jim made his first trip around the country back in the 1950s, supposedly to write a UFO book with a co-author. So he was doing the legwork, and the co-author, an established author, would put everything together. So he went to Project Blue Book, and there he was allowed to see the actual UFO reports, and he was allowed to sit there, go to a typewriter, type it all out, make notes, and give back the reports. Now, with Donald Kehoe, however, most of the time he got the reports verbally, and he wrote them down. And, of course, his books were mostly verbal conversations with people, recreated, we're sure, written in kind of like a mystery novel fashion, but he was copying over information that he'd received. So one day, Kehoe, supposedly, this is according to Jim Moseley, Kehoe learned that Jim had actually seen the actual reports, wasn't just getting them delivered over the telephone or something, or recited to him. And he went crazy over that. And at that point, after Kehoe, as they say, flipped out as a result of Jim getting this extra access, supposedly Project Blue Book clamped down on the release of information and wouldn't give anyone direct access to the reports in the same fashion. Had you heard that?
Yes.
I knew Kehoe also. He was actually a very nice guy in person. Really nice, pleasant guy.
When I was a detective, or when I was a uniformed police officer, and I was investigating something or taking reports, it was almost always verbal. People were verbally telling me. Not in every case. I mean, sometimes we got records or, other items that would go into a case, but most of the people I interviewed were verbal interviews. So that really means, as far as I'm concerned, that doesn't have any additional weight or make it less weighty, if you will.
But in any case here, if we take the stories about disinformation involving UFOs, are you familiar with the Rosetta Deception, the book by James Carrion?
Yes.
Okay. I want to ask you what your opinion is about that, because we've gotten opinions from Richard Dolan, we've gotten opinions from Don Berliner, we've gotten opinions from Stanton Friedman, and we've had a very spirited exchange in the forums, as you know, with James Carrion, and then I was getting responses from Friedman that I was posting there because he's not really that big a message board poster. It was fascinating. We've got the ever fascinating Don Ecker, with whom I sometimes disagree very, very severely, but he's a really cool guy. With Gene and Chris, you're in
The Paracast.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
Have you ever felt like the United States government knows way too much about your financial affairs? I continue to hear stories about property seizures, frozen bank accounts, confiscation of stocks and bonds. It makes me wonder if the U.S. citizen will ever again have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Unfortunately, with the Drug and Money Laundering Act, the IRS Revenue Ruling 6045 of 1984, and the Trading with the Enemy Act and Franklin D. Roosevelt's Executive Order of 1933, some precious metal holdings are subject to government intervention. For this reason, Midas Resources has prepared a report explaining the boundaries of trading precious metals privately. Whether if you have any intention of trading with Midas Resources or not, I have instructed my representatives to give this report out free. Call for your free copy at 1-800-686-2237. When investing, always proceed with caution. Again, call 1-800-686-2237. Exercise your legal right to trade metals privately. 1-800-686-2237.
The human body is extraordinary. Despite all the stresses we inflict upon it, it still works hard to stay in balance. Thousands upon thousands of people rely upon Heart and Body Extract to help their body stay balanced. This excellent 100% natural herbal formula helps maintain healthy blood pressure levels, cleans arteries, promotes good circulation, balances cholesterol, and more. HB Extract, paired with healthy lifestyle choices like good nutrition and exercise, can give you a life free of pain, sickness, and fear. Recapture your youthful vitality and experience your body healing itself with the aid of HB Extract. It's extremely effective and it starts working in just days. Visit hbextract.com to learn more and to read scores of testimonials from satisfied customers. And we've never increased our price in over 10 years. That makes Heart and Body Extract as great a value now as it was the first day we sold it. A healthy heart is a happy heart. Call 866-295-5305 or go to hbextract.com.
This alert just came in. This special announcement is for business owners and leaders of organizations who've been waiting for the right time to build. General Steel has made it impossible to wait any longer with rock-bottom prices that could save you thousands. That's right, General Steel, America's leader in pre-engineered structures, is offering buildings at prices you will never see again. Don't miss these prices. A 50 by 100 for $35,000. You heard right, that's 5,000 square feet for $35,000. Manufacturers, if you need a larger building, try a 100 by 100 commercial building for $129,000. You can't afford to rent with these prices. Imagine a 70 by 100-foot church building for under $69,000. With the economy improving and interest rates still at historic lows, you can't afford to wait. So call 866-91-STEEL. Lock in your price now. Call 866-91-STEEL. That's 866-917-8335.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
The conspiratorial remote Chris O'Brien, not remote as an individual, but in Santa Fe. And he's at a place where the cell phone reception is not really good. Okay, Don Ecker, the questions on the table.
Well, first, I got to tell you, I have not yet read that. So for me to really advance an opinion would not be fair to either the audience or to James himself. So, I'm going to have to take a pass on that, Gene. I'm sorry.
Well, what about the basic theory that the ghost rockets were a put-up job, which is basically what he's saying? And I think his second book, which is going to be about Roswell, he's going to try to paint the same picture, that Roswell was also something that we did, not involving the crash of an alien craft.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's basically taken a skeptical tact with all of this, even perhaps a debunking tact. It would take a heck of a lot, number one, to convince me that there was nothing to Roswell, okay, for quite a few good reasons that I don't think we want to go into here. I mean, good Lord, we've done Roswell to death.
We've done it to death in the way Dracula was done to death, is that we stuck a stake through its heart to stop the discussion, and it keeps coming back. Of course, it's worse with Aztec. Right. Because Aztec, I think, has just had very little basis for it, and it comes back occasionally. But with Roswell, we've done it to death, even though I think something happened there.
Vicki and I almost caused a revolt in the UFO field many years ago when we printed an article that John Keel sent the magazine trying to explain Roswell as a Japanese Fugo balloon.
Ah, yes.
I mean, Roswell will always have its detractors. However, I was in a very fortunate position to actually discover a firsthand, and I verified that in fact he was there, a firsthand witness that was in the Army Air Corps station there and was out on the debris field. So, I'll never forget what this man told me. But be that as it may, the ghost rockets, I have always suspected that there was a heck of a lot more to those than whatever came out. And let's face it, today that is almost a forgotten chapter in the overall UFO field. But
right. Don, let me interrupt. Sorry. We're talking, 500-600 separate, reports, I think, over that very fast and furious few months. I mean, it's interesting what Carrion came up with. He did produce some very interesting documentation, but I don't think it covers the entire width and breadth of the actual ghost rocket wave. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I agree. I totally agree. It's kind of like the Foo Fighters in the last months of the air war over Europe before the collapse of Germany in May of 45. Those Allied pilots, not only Allied pilots, American and British and others, were encountering these, but it later came out that German pilots were encountering them. And these things were encountered in the Pacific theater of operations, not only by Allied pilots, but by Japanese pilots. So, yeah, something was going on. It's never been explained in a public venue. And as to whether the Air Force, or in those days, the Army Air Corps, had any answers to it is unknown basically, too. But it's not unknown that they, in fact, did cover that up. Try to get information on it today, on the Foo Fighter phenomenon. And
or Jimmy Doolittle's trip to Sweden.
Exactly. Yes, Doolittle was sent over there to get a handle on this. What in the heck is going on here? Because, a lot of people thought initially that the Soviet Union, the Russians, may have gotten their hands on German V1 and V2 material, and that's, in fact, what was being fired off. But there was never any firm evidence to suggest that would be the answer.
Getting back briefly to Roswell for one thing, because we did have a question from a member of our listening audience, one of his 3 questions, and we'll get to the others later. We have this recent resurgence of debate over the MJ-12 documents. So Stanton Friedman and Robert Hastings are going back and forth, as they've done for, 25 years, about MJ-12.
Yeah.
What position do you take?
The same one I've taken for a long time, going back years. I think today that MJ-12 was a provocation. I think it's fraudulent. I don't think that those documents are real. I think that this goes back to the days of, well, of course, who came out with those documents initially? Bill Moore, Jamie Chandra.
Right.
Who were Bill Moore and Jamie Chandra interfacing with? Among others, Richard Doty. What's Richard Doty known for? Being one of the top, most publicly known disinformation agents around. And the guy is, I do not know him personally, but I got to tell you, I think he's a weasel. He is not willing to come out and really discuss any longer his part in this massive deception. I'm sure he got heat from his former employers, i.e. OSI, the Air Force, whomever, to shut his mouth. But the guy was a major player in putting out some of the most pernicious misinformation in years.
Well, Don, yeah, we've covered this ground with you and other guests quite a bit, but I'd like to get your opinion on this. Do you think he was tasked with this particular series of disinformation programs, or do you think he was, off the reservation with it?
I think initially, yes, he was tasked, and then I think he had so much fun. This is my speculation, but I think he had so much fun with what he was tasked doing that he ended up going rogue with it. That's what I believe happened.
Now, Richard Dolan has an argument to make about these documents. And it's not just that there's one MJ-12 documents, there are a lot of documents there. And he's thinking, well, if a Richard Doty or one or two people were doing some documents, maybe they come up with, a few dozen, whatever. But he said there are hundreds of pages of documents that the Woods have posted and written about.
I'm going to say one thing about that, and it's going to sound cryptic. I've held my peace on this for years.
And you know what? You're going to hold your peace for about 4 minutes, and then we're going to hear what you have to say about the ubiquity of those strange documents. Don Ecker with Gene and Chris, you're in the Paracast.
You're listening to GCN, proudly sponsored by UnseenNow.com. Lock down your digital life at UnseenNow.com. This is GCN.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKE soft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKE soft.com.
The experts at Web.com want to build your business a successful website for free, just like we did for these current Web.com customers.
We've used and looked at other website designers, but there's nobody better than Web.com.
Web.com can build your website in as little as 7 days free. Plus, we'll promote it on all the major search engines like Google, Yahoo, and Bing. If after 30 days you're happy, we'll continue to provide promotion, hosting, support, and maintenance, all for one low monthly fee. If not, cancel and pay nothing.
If you're in business today and you don't have a web presence, you won't be taken seriously.
Call right now and you'll also get a free .com or .net domain name for your new website, powered by VeriSign, the world's leading domain name provider.
Call 800-297-0154. That's 800-297-0154.
No upfront charge for site build, after which ongoing fees apply. Rights to site are relinquished when canceled. Domain included during active service, after which fees apply.
That's 800-297-0154.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows. Pause and rewind live TV. Even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 6 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey water filtration systems. The Berkey Light systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light system today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $231, and the Berkey Guy will ship your order free of charge. With the purchase of a Berkey Light, the Berkey Guy is also offering a set of fluoride and arsenic filters for only $39.99. That's over 30% off the retail price. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at goberkey.com. That's goberkey.com today.
Hi, this is Nick Pope. You're listening to the Paracast.
So when Don Ecker says he's held his tongue, this is a rarity. It doesn't happen very often because he always says what's on his mind. So, okay, when I brought up the issue here about not just there being an MJ-12 document, but many documents that have come out, and that's used by, for example, Richard Dolan as an indication that with all that much happening, either you had a huge number of people working on them, or maybe they are genuine. What's your take on it, Don Ecker?
I'm going to say one name. I'm only going to say the name, and then I'm going to shut my mouth. Tim Cooper.
All right, we have a lot of listeners here who don't know much about that guy, but just give him like a 30-second reference about why you would use that name.
I'm sorry. What part of I'm going to say a name, and then I'm going to shut my mouth was unclear.
I understand your point. I was just hoping you'd be more expansive for a lot of our new listeners. Okay, let's just leave it there. Chris?
I'm supposed to ask a question from the forum. I don't have that up. Not sure how to do that on my new spangled phone.
All right, there's a way to do it, but you have to kind of go back and forth. I'll do those. Do you think Don Ecker will ever get to the bottom of this 100%? Not just, well, maybe Doty did a bunch or whatever. And the other possibility here, too, do you ever think Doty is a put-up job, too? They just put him up to be the fall guy? That there is really a group of people generating these things, and they put up this goofus? Because that's what he is. He's a goofus. He's a doofus.
Good question.
Well, I will say that it would make sense. Yeah.
I mean, I look at what this guy does. He's barely literate when he writes letters. He doesn't seem to me the kind of guy who would be bright enough, skilled enough, savvy enough to do any of this stuff. Not even one document. I don't see it. Unless, of course, he's also a pretty smart guy putting on a pose.
Well, if the Air Force wanted to float a disinformation story, believe me, they could get all the document writers they ever needed to do that, if they had a reason to do it. I have no doubt that, if that became an official position of somebody within the intelligence community for whatever reason, whether it was ultimately chasing Russian spies or today Iranian terrorists, if they wanted to float a story, they could get the gang together and they could knock something out that would peel your socks off if they wanted to. Now, the fact that when Moore and Chandra came out with that original document, for years, that literally set the field on fire. And if you were around back then, you will have witnessed all kinds of acrimony, recriminations, people going hammer and tongue at each other. The field literally devolved into factions. And that was good for a long time. The Woods, though, when they began coming out with those documents, document after document after document, when I was in the Army, in the armed forces, I was involved in intelligence operations in Vietnam. And I can tell you that if somebody released information that wasn't supposed to be released, the powers that be would move heaven and hell to shut up the leak. And the very fact that the Woodses have been coming out with these documents for years tells me that it's pure crapola. Because if it wasn't, somebody would have been hooked up and carried away.
Well, that says a lot. But why do you think a person like Stanton Friedman, who's a pretty smart guy and is not easily fooled, why does he continue to stick to MJ-12?
It's his life. That's simple. Stanton has how many years of his life involved in this, and the untold hours and weeks and months and years of work and research that he carried out in support of that. The books that he wrote. In many respects, it's kind of like Linda Howe. Why does Linda Howe get behind so many fraudulent cases? Very simple. It's her life. That's what she does. And to change horses in the middle of that stream, Bubba, it ain't going to happen.
You know, sometimes, though, changing could cause more publicity. It could create more publicity and attention. Look, I have realized this isn't the right thing, but I have reformed now, and now I have the real truth. I mean, it's like a person who's famous and gets convicted of a crime. They get out of jail and they write the best-selling book and they get back into movies and they become Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, well, this ain't that.
Well, some things just never end. But there you go. Speaking of things that never end, we have a question from Toxic Surf. I love that name. In fact, I'm going to give Toxic Surf a like just because that name is really cool in our forums.
His nickname should be Fukushima.
What are your thoughts about Bob Lazar appearing at the upcoming UFO Congress event? Will you be there? What do you think his motives are? Personally, I'm hoping to go just for the event of him speaking. Why do we care about Bob Lazar anymore, Don Ecker?
Well,
that's my comment.
Yeah, that's a story that never truly went away, nor that's a story that never had a satisfactory conclusion. And Toxic Surf, I got to tell you, that's a heck of a question. I don't have a clue. Lazar, for years, has considered the UFO arena to be persona non grata. He wanted nothing to do with UFOs, with UFO people, with UFO cases, with UFOs, period. And now, 5 years later, he's suddenly making the jaunt to go down to that conference.
Maybe we should ask George Knapp.
Yeah, that's a heck of a good question. The only thing that makes sense to me at this point, maybe he missed the adulation that for so long came his way. He was the shiny star when he first came out with that story. I personally have had a number of meetings with Lazar back in the day when the case was fresh, brand new. As a matter of fact, I went down and interviewed him right before he was going to trial on that house of ill repute that he set cameras up and a computer system for that madam in Clark County. I mean, prostitution is legal in the state of Nevada. It's not legal in Clark County. And although it's there, everybody knows it's there. As a matter of fact, the madam that he set that material up for, the computers, the cameras, and etc., was a DEA informant and an informant for the sheriff's department there.
Oh boy, let's get into more of this in a moment. Don Ecker is with us with Gene and Chris. You're in the Paracast.
Not just an alternative to the mainstream media. We're the premier independent talk radio network. We are GCN.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on our distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
So here's what happened. I was placing an order online. The site went down. It took hours before it returned, but I'd already placed the order with another company. If your site goes down, you could lose business. And if you have a business or personal site, you'll want to know it's easy to run and it will stay online. At iWeb, your site is hosted on one of the most reliable networks in the world. Talk to a sales rep at iWeb.com. Use the promo code TechNightOwl for a special discount.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 3 square meals you'll need in an emergency. So the Freeze Dry Guys 3 square meal unit sale is just the ticket. A variety pack of tasty, nourishing breakfast, lunch, and dinner on sale now. Breakfast is Freeze Dry Guys' favorite. Hot oatmeal and sweet dehydrated bananas. Lunch is Mountain House freeze-dried hot macaroni and cheese and crisp green beans. And dinner is Mountain House long grain wild rice pilaf and hearty beef stew, vegetables, and gravy. Call Freeze Dry Guy and ask for details on the 126 serving 3 square meals unit. One case normally $164.37. Sale price at only $138.90. Save over $25. Get 2 or 3 cases and save even more. Or ask about Freeze Dry Guys Fall Chili Special. Always free shipping to the lower 48 states. Call 866-404-3663 or click freezedryguy.com. And hurry, the Fall Chili Special and 3 square meals unit are on sale while supplies last. From the Freeze Dry Guy, the finest freeze-dried and dehydrated foods available for long-term storage, period.
If you need to say happy birthday, happy anniversary, thank you, or simply I'm thinking of you, ProFlowers.com is the key. ProFlowers has stunning bouquets, like the best-selling 100 blooms for $19.99. Plus, ProFlowers will include a glass vase for free. Sending someone a wonderful surprise of beautiful flowers sent fresh from the fields is easy. Choose the bouquet you like, pick the delivery date, and each order is 100% guaranteed. Plus, all bouquets from Pro Flowers are guaranteed to last at least 7 full days. Beautiful, fragrant flowers, picked fresh and sent to your loved one for lasting enjoyment. To get this incredible savings and send someone 100 gorgeous blooms with a free vase for $19.99, go to proflowers.com, click the blue microphone in the top right corner, and enter code PLOW. That's proflowers.com. Click the mic and enter code PLOW.
Hello, it's Tom Chenault from The Tom Chenault Show. We are experts in home-based business and residual income. We show people how to make money from their home, either part-time or full-time. And in partnership with Genesis Communication Network, we've organized a team to fight back about people not having money, time, or health. And we need your help. What we want you to do is, if you've got an interest in building an organization to fight back against people taking our money, taking our time, and taking our health, we want to talk to you. All you need to do is call this number, 855-308-8326. Again, all you want to do is call 855-308-8326. You can make a tremendous amount of money and end up fighting for a great cause. Please call us right now.
This is Kurt Sotheby, author of UFO Mysteries, and you're listening to the Paracast.
Don Ecker with Gina and Chris. Briefly about Bob Lazar. I don't know how far we want to go into it. We will be hearing from George Knapp soon. Right now, he's immersed in ratings. You know, he works with his TV station in Las Vegas. And when they're doing the November sweeps, everybody on staff has to work extra hours. This is typical for the TV industry because a lot of the ratings and the ratings events are decided in November, and that determines, of course, advertising rates. It's all about the money. That's how the media is. Let me ask you another question here from Toxic Surf. Don Ecker, while we're on the subject, what do you think about the future present of UFO conferences in general? I know the internet has killed the importance of or need for these type of events, but still, I personally like them just for the entertainment and people watching. Do you believe anything really worthwhile or groundbreaking comes from the conferences? Or is it just mostly preaching to the choir? Now, before you answer that, Don, I know that Chris and I were talking about a lot of these UFO conferences that tend to attract an older group of people. But of course, actual conferences, physical events, not online events, can be popular if it's Comic-Con. And you see, of course, your famous comic book character from movies or comics, or when they introduce the stars of Batman versus Superman and that kind of thing. So what do you think about the UFO conferences, Don Ecker?
Well, when you're talking about Comic-Con and you're talking about UFO conferences, you're talking about apples and carrots, okay?
That's actually too close a comparison, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing. I don't think anything other than the sociability of everybody showing up at these conferences. You know, it's more of a social occasion than it is where anything groundbreaking is going to come out. Usually they have all the usual suspects appear at these. Very, very seldom do they have anybody show up at these with anything new or groundbreaking. I mean, you get the same people. You get the Linda Howes. You get the Stan Friedmans. You get the Richard Dolans. You get, those folks, the people that just about everybody.
Present company excluded. Just a week ago, I presented some really compelling physical evidence that I entered into the public record for scrutiny and for follow-up from people relating to hematite exact replicas of flying saucers that were discovered from the Havana culture in the mound region of the upper Ohio River Valley. And these objects are made out of hematite, and they are physical, real, appearing to be flying saucers that were fabricated by Indians, Stone Age people, 1,500 years ago. That's groundbreaking in my book. So, present company excluded. I agree, Don. A lot of it is just going over the same old thing.
Well, I said seldom, Chris. I said seldom. I didn't say never. I said seldom.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm reaffirming that.
And, people like me, I very, very seldom anymore get invited to give a talk anywhere. It doesn't really bother me, but they don't like my tact. Okay, my tact is, here are the facts as I found them. And chances are most people don't want to hear the facts. It's like that poster that was in Agent Mulder's office in the X-Files. Most people... I want to believe. I don't want to be, slapped in the mud with the real material. I don't want to hear that the UFO I saw was actually a brand spanking new, shiny government UAV or drone. I want to believe it was from Zeta Reticuli. So in many respects, I guess I'm the skunk at the garden party. So I don't get invited. But, hey, that's just the way it is.
Don, I believe me, I know the feeling. I've been very shunned and I think dissed in some sense of the word because of, I share that same approach. Facts, just the facts, but put it out there. And if you have a problem with it, it's a personal problem and you'll get over it. But you can't argue with the facts. I mean, if you have some data, if you have something that you can hold in your hand or latch onto that has some sort of integrity to the evidence chain, then you got something. People are really into, as you said, they want to believe, they want to get validation, affirmation, and some sort of cozy, comfy feeling that their personal view of this phenomenon is being validated and it is being acknowledged in their own mind. And that's always going to be the case. I think the dynamic of socializing at UFO events, butts in the chair, that sort of thing, I think as soon as we see in the next decade this 60 to 70-year-old crowd that tends to populate these events, as soon as they pass on or are unable to attend, we're going to have to go to a more virtual realm. We're going to have to acquiesce, to technology and the way the kids share information. It's all changing.
Yeah, life has changed.
So if we want to have a meeting with regard to UFOs, a conference, must we now do it online to get a large audience?
Not only must you do it online, but you've got to make sure that you have sufficient time to market it. Marketing is the key. I know that firsthand. About 10 years ago, I wrote a novel. Right now, 2 publishers are looking to republish it. My original publisher was a very small press that did minimal marketing. The 2 that I'm looking at right now that my agent is in talks with are bigger than the original, and they will do marketing along with an advance, which would be nice.
And you know what? Let me tell you something. It's not always easy anymore to get an advance on a book.
No.
That's a really good achievement.
And the bottom line is you've got to market them. Now, I've done an online conference a couple of years ago with a number of other people. It was pretty well put together. Of course, all these things always need, to be refined. But I think that's going to be the future, especially in this field.
Well, when it comes to doing something special or new, of course, we have this new Paracast Plus service. And one of the ideas that Chris and I are talking about is some kind of conference situation. We already have a chat room in there, which you'll find out when you start looking over it, Don. But we're working on different ideas, how the next generation. But, there's something about actually meeting the people that you've heard about, read about, seen on TV, just seeing them in person, and that kind of human touch. Maybe I'm old, but...
No, that you're right. That's absolutely correct. The problem is today, especially with today's economy the way it is, with gasoline the way it is, with all the hassle that one goes through if you want to fly somewhere. I mean, it is just, it's drudgery. I remember when we used to fly a lot of places, Vicki and I, and before even I knew Vicki, I always looked forward to going to the airport and flying somewhere. Today, you'd have to get me there at the point of a shotgun. It is just, that much of a hassle. And
Wait a minute, Don. I just led for 10 days a bunch of guys named Mohammed, Tariq, Sabu. There was one guy even named Mohammed, and I went to TSA. I dealt with hotels, restaurants, and I'm really happy to say, only one time did I ever feel that there was some sort of suspicion or bigotry or whatever. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, no, actually, if you got a guy named Mohammed going through the TSA, they're going to let him through. It's the 85-year-old woman they're going to strip search.
Well, there's something really special.
Yeah,
there's
why she got strip search? Wait a minute, Gene. You know why she got stripped?
Why?
They took away her knitting needles because she was going to try to knit an Afghan.
Don Ecker is here with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast. UnseenNow.com, proud sponsor of GCN. Unseen Now's unparalleled encryption tools keep your communications secure. GCN.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
The Genesis Communications Network is one of America's premier broadcasters of captivating talk radio. We thank you for listening. Now, just imagine, there are thousands of people who are just as passionate about radio as you are. But what you may not realize is how easy and affordable it is to advertise with us. Radio commercials for your business could be heard on hundreds of radio stations across the U.S. every day. We can help you by creating an effective radio advertising campaign for your company. From script writing to producing your commercial, just like the one you're listening to right now. No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
There you go. Well, actually, of course, you have to think if the woman is slightly overweight, maybe she has Arnold Schwarzenegger inside, like the movie Total Recall. Remember that movie, the scene where he's wearing this robotic costume that makes you think he's a overweight, rather tall woman. And right? And then she starts, of course, malfunctioning. How long are you going to stay here? 2 weeks. And starts repeating, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Oh, forget it. That was a fun movie, though, about Mars. You wonder if there isn't something like that on Mars right now. How realistic was that in Total Recall, where we create these chambers in which people live with artificial atmosphere, and that's how they sustain themselves?
Well, if we ever go to Mars, we're going to have to because of the radiation.
Sure, but maybe we've been there already.
Maybe.
Do you think we have?
No, I don't. But then who am I to say?
So if there's a secret space program, what are they doing? Is it for spy satellites? Have they set up a base on the moon?
Well, I personally think somebody set a base up on the moon, but I'm not sure who. But that's just me. Who can say? Until we get up there, and I doubt I'll ever make it, it's a hard nut to crack.
So what do you think's going on the moon, Don Ecker?
Well, I think the Chinese want to go up there. They probably want to pick up their Jade Rabbit, and they're talking about a manned mission by 2020. And that, I got to be honest, that really bothers me because we can't even today, as far as we know, put our own astronauts up on the space station. We've got to depend on the Russians, those wonderful, warm, charismatic human beings, to the tune of $70 million a pop.
Well, you know what bothers me so much about this, Don, is the fact that we had the technology in 1969 to send men to the moon. How come if we could do it in 1969, we can't do it in 2014?
Because the current administration shut down our manned space program years ago. That's why.
Yeah, but that's been true for all the administrations. You know, from the 70s on, we were fading the thing down.
No, but we still had shuttles. We still had a way to put people up there.
Right. Well, right now we're trying to get someone like an Elon Musk to come up with a shuttle program.
Yeah, well, so far, no joy.
Speaking of lunar stuff and moon, from Techno Mage, what do you know about the moon wave that's been reported by a few astrophotographers? It looks like the wave that slowly moves up or down a TV set when the picture is being refreshed, and my understanding is they are not camera glitches.
Well, I can only presume that, in fact, they are some type of camera glitch or monitor glitch or some kind of glitch.
Okay, well, then you argue with the premise.
Yeah. I don't think it's anything to worry about.
Well, there you go. Okay. Not related question, but do you own a telescope and do you do your own moon or other observing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have an 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain telescope and beautiful instrument. I'd love to have a 14-inch, a real light bucket, but this 8-inch is a beautiful piece of equipment. And yeah, I use it. You bet.
Okay. All right. And let's see what else. Okay, we asked that question already. Let me ask you this one from Tom 1961. And I have not checked whether Tom 1961 was really born in 1961 or not. Whom do you respect most in the UFO field?
Well, just about everybody that I had the most highest regard for today is no longer with us. But I would have to say Richard Hall, Dick Hall. I had the utmost respect for Dick Hall. Donald Kehoe, whom I see as the original dean of UFO research. I had the utmost regard for him. Ivan Sanderson, I thought did some really way out there work and had a lot of respect for the work that Sanderson did. And people that back in those earlier days shined a light on this. Now, this is going to surprise you, Gene, but I think that Mosley falls in that category. And Long John Nebel.
Long John Nebel was such an interesting character. He, of course, wasn't above doing a few pranks on the air with Mosley and Barker. Like one time he cut them off when they were talking about something. You know, he pulled these things, but he invented paranormal radio. That's why you and I are here. That's why Art Bell did his show. Art Bell probably wouldn't have had his Coast to Coast AM if Long John Nebel didn't have his radio show.
Totally agree.
But Long John was a really temperamental character. Ever meet him?
Did I ever meet him? No.
Oh, yeah. I did a few times. Jim Mosley knew him pretty well as you could know Long John Nebel. But he was a...
You know, it's funny. A lot of those guys are somewhat like that. You know, I think it can be a safe assumption that back in the 90s, thousands and thousands of people had a genuine affection for Art Bell. But Art has his quirks, as it were.
Well, of course, we know what Art did with regard to a certain radio show he had.
Yeah. But, you know, it's just one of those things. You know, it lasted, 6 weeks, and then it was off the air. So, yeah, you kind of wonder what was actually happening with that, because, you know, had he approached now with you know, the name of his show notwithstanding, if he would have approached it in a bit of a different way, but what is the first thing Art did with his then brand new show? He brought back all the usual fraudulent suspects and put them back on the air. And, you know, I know from reading threads around the web during that time period, a lot of people were really turned off by that.
Well, he tried to basically pretend that 10 years never happened.
Yes, he could catch the same lightning in the same bottle, and it wasn't about to happen.
Well, part of the reason he remains off the air is he had this non-compete clause. So after he went off the air, he was under contract with Sirius XM, I think until the summer this year, although I don't know what he's going to do. Maybe he'll stay retired. I don't know. But really, he's pretty much in our age group. So I guess he's got a few years left.
A bit older than I am, pal.
Well, he's not that much older than I am, without going into detail. But there you go. He has a little bit more money than I do. So there you go. I really don't care if he does or doesn't get back on, but I know that I had asked his webmaster once why he came up with the name Dark Matter, knowing Don Ecker, and he claimed that he didn't even think about it, but I think that's just insulting.
Yeah, I can't.
That was insulting, really is. Anyway, we have a few more segments left to spend with our friend Don Ecker, and a few more questions from our listeners, and some other stuff to talk about. With Gene and Chris, who is in a remote location and sounds it, you're in
the Paracast.
Neighbors, are you tired of dealing with a slow web hosting provider? Well, check out A2 Hosting and their screaming fast Swift server platform. They even have SSDs that load pages 300% faster than the competition. Ready to give your site a speed boost? Well, tell you what, neighbors, head on over to a2hosting.com. That's A2, that's number 2, a2hosting.com. Check out their Prime hosting account. And get this, neighbors, They're even giving you an exclusive 25% off discount for all our listeners. 25%. And remember, their Guru Crew support team is standing by 24/7, 365 days a year to answer any of your questions. Now, to get the discount, use the coupon code GENE when you check out.
On the average, Americans work between 45 to 50 years, hoping to build up enough wealth to retire and live out their golden years. Unfortunately, with taxation, the rising cost of food, energy, housing, and medical, many retirees are forced to live below the poverty line. Is this a flaw of free enterprise, or is our monetary unit we call the Federal Reserve Note forcing us into perpetual debt, ensuring inflation and higher taxes? These questions and more can be answered by reading G. Edward Griffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Congressman Ron Paul states it's what every American needs to know about central bank power. A gripping adventure into the secret world of international banking cartel. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. I will give a silver dollar from the early 1900s to anyone who purchases this book. Call 1-800-686-2237 and order a copy today. It's critical that the public be made aware of the system. Call and order your copy today at 1-800-686-2237. That's 1-800-686-2237.
Do you have relatives and friends that are convinced there is no need ever to prepare for any kind of emergency? Are these also folks you buy Christmas presents for? At 30dayfoodsupply.com, we can solve both of these problems at the same time. Go to 30dayfoodsupply.com or call 541-229-0010. We can ship your Christmas presents directly to them. Choose from our original 30-day food supply, our long-term storage vegan burger mixes, or other oatmeal, soups, porridges, beans, and granolas for everyday use. All products are non-GMO, MSG-free, and vegetarian. Most are gluten, soy, and nut-free. Call 541-229-0010 today. Oregon Trail Foods and 30dayfoodsupply.com keep prices low, cutting out the middleman by buying directly from their producers in Oregon. Remember, only $10 ships your entire order to the lower 48. Visit the website 30dayfoodsupply.com. Call 541-229-0010. 30dayfoodsupply.com. 541-229-0010.
The experts at Web.com want to build your business a successful website for free, just like we did for these current Web.com customers.
We've used and looked at other website designers, but there's nobody better than Web.com.
Web.com can build your website in as little as 7 days free. Plus, we'll promote it on all the major search engines like Google, Yahoo, and Bing. If after 30 days you're happy, we'll continue to provide promotion, hosting, support, and maintenance, all for one low monthly fee. If not, cancel and pay nothing.
If you're in business today and you don't have a web presence, you won't be taken seriously.
Call right now and you'll also get a free .com or .net domain name for your new website, powered by VeriSign, the world's leading domain name provider.
Call 800-297-0154. That's 800-297-0154.
No upfront charge for site build, after which ongoing fees apply. Rights to site are relinquished when canceled. Domain included during active service, after which fees apply.
That's 800-297-0154.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
You see, we offer with Paracast Plus a high-resolution version of the show. So it doesn't go through successive generations. It's direct off the master tape. It's still mono because there's no reason for stereo. We are recording it in stereo, but you're not going to hear any directionality. So we do it in mono at 128K. So it's as good as the master recording. But of course, Chris is on a mobile connection, a wonderful digitally destructed mobile connection.
Yeah. And I've been tooling around Santa Fe, picking up dinner, dropping off guests, having a great time with you and Don. Multitasking.
Do tell. Let us continue here. So we're talking about Don Ecker's favorite UFO researchers. Now, you know I had a rocky association with Richard Hall, right, Don?
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, so I remember when he was running NICAP, I walked in there with Alan Greenfield, and I think Rick Hilberg and maybe somebody else was there. And Richard Hall looked at us, pointed his finger at us, shaking finger. The finger had to be shaking. you're not welcome here. And it was 10 years before Hall and I talked again. And we shook hands and we were okay. It's just that it was a little too late. By the time we wanted to get him on the Paracast, he was not feeling so well.
Can you spell curmudgeon?
Yeah, that was Dick. That was Dick. Dick had his rough side. We had a falling out with Dick right after the turn of the century at UFO Magazine. We did an issue with Egyptian pyramids on the cover. And I had done a rather massive article on Moses and monotheism. I'll never forget this. Dick had a monthly column in the magazine called Hall's Corner, and he always came in on time. I mean, the guy was just, well, he was a writer.
He was a pro.
He was a real pro. And he saw that issue and called us up, just raising the biggest ruckus you can imagine, because what are you putting that with UFOs for? Well, that was when Dick said, I quit. And by golly, he did. He was quite a character.
And remember, his basic voice had this slight southern drawl. So when he spoke in anger, it wasn't necessarily yelling, although it sounds like he yelled at you.
Yeah, well, I said, what is wrong? I mean, Dick? And boy, he was outraged by that. So, hey, what do? You just pick it up and move on.
Ever meet Donald Kehoe?
No.
Okay.
He passed before 2 years, as a matter of fact. He passed before I got active in the field. But Dick, I knew, and Vicki knew very well. And we had been back to Dick's house in Maryland. He was a great guy. Dick, as a matter of fact, took us down to Luray, Virginia, where Donald Kehoe's home had been turned into a bed and breakfast. A lovely couple had bought it. It was just beautiful, and took us down there, introduced us. Vicki and I ended up staying there a couple of days, and Dick took us out to the cemetery where Kehoe and his wife were buried. I got a photograph of me kneeling beside Don Kehoe's tombstone. Dick was a great guy.
When I first visited and met Donald Kehoe, we met him in Luray. Not at the caverns, by the way. Alan Greenfield and I were joking, he's going to meet us in the caverns. He's really a Dero or something like that. No, we met him at a diner, and we had, a half-hour conversation with him. I'm not sure if we had lunch with him or just had coffee or something like that. And I was really young, but we met all sorts of people. And I think the very same year we met Ray Palmer in Amherst, Wisconsin.
Yeah, now there's another guy that I would have loved to have had the opportunity to meet and sit down and talk with. But Palmer was one of those guys, from everything I've been able to derive about him. And I was very interested in Ray Palmer years ago, and did as much research as I had time to do on him. He was quite a showman. He always struck me as more of a P.T. Barnum than a Don Kehoe, if you know what I mean.
Well, I knew Palmer slightly. I met him once. It was in 1965. Alan Greenfield and I and Jim Mosley were there. And I think Dale Rettig, who died in the past year, I think. And we first gone to Chicago. And in Chicago, we met a young astronomer who had written a UFO book named Jacques Vallée. And then imagine the comparison here. And then we met Palmer. And Palmer, of course, was very famous in the science fiction world. In fact, I'm reading another book about Ray Palmer. We had Richard Toronto and Geneva Hagen on the Paracast a couple of years ago, a book about Richard Shaver and Ray Palmer. And the book I'm now reading is called The Man from Mars, Ray Palmer's Amazing Pulp Journey from Fred Nadis. And it even got a good review from Jerome Clark. And it talks about his early years in science fiction. And, he was someone who discovered some of the great science fiction writers as an editor of amazing stories. Like the first stories from Isaac Asimov were published when Ray Palmer was editor.
Mm-hmm.
Did you realize that? I mean, the most famous writers of the 30s, Robert Bloch, the guy who wrote Psycho, was a pal of Ray Palmer's. Otto Binder, of course. He and his cousin, was his brother, I forget, did I, Robot.
Heinlein?
I don't know if he did Heinlein or if he knew Heinlein or not. But a lot of the great writers appeared in amazing stories edited by Ray Palmer. This is before the years of Schaefer. Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote some of his final Mars John Carter novels for amazing stories, and he did it because Ray Palmer was a superb showman. And Palmer was a character, he was physically crippled because of a truck accident when he was 7 years old. He basically was in such pain in the hospital that he bent over and never got out in that position again. He was a hunchback.
Yeah.
So he was like 4'8" tall, really small guy, but really, really charismatic character, amazing character. I talked to him on the phone a few times. I even, exchanged a couple of letters with him, but really interesting character. Probably someone, though, who really kept the UFO subject alive for many years, especially, of course, in Fate magazine, which he and Curtis Fuller founded back in the 1940s. This guy did a lot of stuff, but he did some crazy stuff too, because he'd pull stunts.
Well, that's what kept the field interesting, I'm sure, for so many people. And, people like Ray Palmer, Gray Barker, and John Keel even. They brought a little levity and a little humor and a little spark into the situation. So, and, it's going to be a heck of a thing to say, but maybe we could use a Ray Palmer today, or a Ray Barker.
Let's do our break. Don Ecker joins us with Gene and Chris. You're in
The Paracast. GCN, proudly sponsored by UnseenNow.com. Find out how to stop Big Brother in his tracks at UnseenNow.com. This is GCN.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKEsoft.com. Lemkesoft.com. LEMKEsoft.com.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 3 square meals you'll need in an emergency. So the Freeze Dry Guys 3 square meal unit sale is just the ticket. A variety pack of tasty, nourishing breakfast, lunch, and dinner on sale now. Breakfast is Freeze Dry Guys' favorite. Hot oatmeal and sweet dehydrated bananas. Lunch is Mountain House freeze-dried hot macaroni and cheese and crisp green beans. And dinner is Mountain House long grain wild rice pilaf and hearty beef stew, vegetables, and gravy. Call Freeze Dry Guy and ask for details on the 126 serving 3 square meals unit. One case normally $164.37. Sale price at only $138.90. Save over $25. Get 2 or 3 cases and save even more. Or ask about Freeze Dry Guys Fall Chili Special. Always free shipping to the lower 48 states. Call 866-404-3663 or click freezedryguy.com. And hurry, the Fall Chili Special and 3 square meals unit are on sale while supplies last. From the Freeze Dry Guy, the finest freeze-dried and dehydrated foods available for long-term storage, period.
On Facebook, on the news, and in conversations with friends, we're bombarded every day with advice on how to be healthier, from gluten-free and non-GMO diets to how much exercise and sleep the body needs. But how much have you heard about alkalizing the body? AlkaVision Plasma pH drops are a holistic and natural way to get your body's pH levels back in balance. Just a few drops in water will help your body rid itself of harmful waste. And even the healthiest of diets can be complemented with your daily use of AlkaVision Plasma pH drops. Who isn't looking for more vibrance, vigor, and energy? Now buy 2 bottles of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops and get $10 off your order. Visit alkavision.com or call 800-518-7615. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops are packed with a powerful combination of the most alkaline minerals and compounds. Open the door to greater health, vitality, and zest for life. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health. Call 800-518-7615 or head to alkavision.com.
What good is a Big Berkey water filter?
We get that question a lot here at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. And in a word, the answer is protection. Protection from water main breaks, E. coli contamination, environmental chemical spills, pesticide runoff, chlorine taste and smell, and all forms of fluoride. Plus, Big Berkey water filters are the original gravity water filter system and most trusted on the market for a reason. Tested by multiple independent NSF EPA certified labs, they are the gold standard in water purification. At only 1.7 cents a gallon, a single set of filters can last for 5 to 10 years. That means big savings. Big Berkey, the one that's powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water. Get a Big Berkey today at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. GCN listeners receive 5% off all ceramic filter systems. Visit our website or call 1-877-99-BERKEY. That's 877-99-BERKEY. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
We were talking about some of the UFO researchers that Don Ecker had admired, and we're getting into the characters, the really wild and wacky characters of the 50s and 60s. And maybe, Don Ecker, you and I are basically lamenting over the good old days. But do we even have characters like that anymore in the field?
Well, we have John Lear. I mean,
but really
not in the same vein as people like Barker or Keel or even Richard Hall. I don't think anybody that knew Richard Hall could ever say that Dick was not a character.
True. But that's true with a lot of these people. There's still a few of them around. But really, the more outrageous characters are not apt to be found. I mean, we have some outrageous characters nowadays, but, there's more of a hostile feeling from them, like we don't want to mention Stephen Greer, but I just did.
Or we don't want to mention Dan Burish, but I guess I did.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, we have some characters, but not in the same light as some of those characters in years past.
Those were the days. I guess UFOs became more mainstream or less mainstream. I'm not really sure. What do you think here, Don Ecker, about getting more younger people involved in the field? Because we're talking about the age, the demographic of the UFO conventions. And I know we have a number of listeners to the Paracast who are not 50, 60-somethings. They're younger.
Well, when I came into the field, I was in my 30s. Now, late 30s, granted, but I was in my 30s. And I took a look at when I started going to a lot of these UFO conferences. And, here in Los Angeles, we had several every year. And, of course, UFO Magazine, we were always at these conferences. Sometimes we spoke. Other times, we just had a presence there and made the magazine available. But even then, it seemed like most of the crowds were an older bunch compared to what I was then. It seems like with things like UFO conferences, it usually appeals to those people that have a little more time on their hands. If you're a 20, 30, even 40-something, generally you're talking about people with families, with jobs. It's hard to break away if you've got to go somewhere where there's a conference, that type of thing. So as a result, just by the fact of what it is, you're going to be getting an older demographic. You see what I'm saying?
Also, it's not as easy or practical to travel. You know, traveling by air is more expensive. The state of the economy doesn't make it easy for younger people who may have the vacation, who may have the interest to make that trip. So things are kind of different, unfortunately.
And here's the other imponderable. You've got to have some people that are investigating some contemporary, as a rule, contemporary, but interesting, even fascinating cases. And how many of those have we had recently?
Well, we've had a few interesting cases. I know I researched a couple for 701 the movie. They'd asked me to look up some recent cases. Tracy Torme had given me an assignment to do a little research. And there I found a few cases, but not the sensational cases necessarily. Although there was a UFO flap in Canada for a year or so that Chris Rutkowski investigated.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that they do not seem to be as prevalent today, at least that we are hearing about, as they were back in the late 80s, the early 90s. Now, I'll tell you a little something that happened to me just a bit over a week ago. Well, I guess it was last Friday night. On Fridays, I always have my co-host, and you both know him. Chris, you and Gene both know my co-host on Friday night, Richard Saraday.
He's been on the Paracast, yes.
He's been on the Paracast. And generally, if the weather is nice, after the show is over, we will go out on my patio and kind of unwind for a little bit out there and just sit there and chat a little bit, which we were doing. And Richard saw something hovering in the sky. And he said, "Don, is that a helicopter?" And I looked up, and there was this star-like thing that was flashing red, blue, and white. And I looked at it for a moment, and I could not hear anything, nor was this thing moving. So I said to Rich, I said, "Keep your eye on that. I'm going to go in and get my binoculars." And I've got a fine pair of military surplus artillery binoculars. And I went in and got those, came out and set them up and was looking at this thing. And honest to God, we watched it for 15, 20 minutes. And it just sat in the sky, flashing these colors until finally Rich said, "Well, I got to go home." And I said, "Yeah, well, I'm going to go to bed." We went inside, and he took off, and I put my binoculars away. And as far as I know, the thing at some point, I guess, had to leave, but it was the weirdest thing. Now, by all accounts, that was a UFO. It was flying.
Well, Don, if it hung in one place and slowly set to the west, it could have been a star.
No, it didn't, though. It didn't. And when I put the binoculars on it, those lights were really flashing. And it was continuous. Red, blue, white, red, blue, white, red, blue, white. So, it was in the east. It was in the eastern sky. So I don't know what it was, but it was odd.
Oh, wow. Is that the most interesting UFO-related thing you've ever seen, or the only?
Oh, no. Oh, my God, no. And I in one of my first appearances on the Paracast, I think it was back when David Biedney was with you, I described the original sighting I had in 1966 that just absolutely had me, gobsmacked. And that was, you may or may not remember it, Gene.
It is a few years ago. We're talking about 2006.
Yeah. It was a day that I was with 3 other friends. We were all in high school. Our high school gave the day off because it was the start of deer season. We all hunted back then, and we'd been out all day long, and we were coming in late in the afternoon, about 4:15, I believe, or 4:30. We were coming down off this hill when one of my buddies looked up in the sky and screamed. And at the time, and I remember telling you this, I was thinking to myself, this guy saw a deer, the dummy, and he yelled. And I turned around and looked up. And here were 4 brilliant arc light-like objects flying in a diamond formation, going at a pretty leisurely pace. Maybe 150, 200 miles an hour, but they were up in the sky, probably 15, 20,000 feet, but it was hard to tell. And as they overflew us, the light in the rear suddenly shot straight up into the sky.
Let's continue that and finish that in our next segment with Don Ecker reminding us about this case with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast. Free from the shackles of corporate America, we're the place for independent thinkers. GCN.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
We all have our own idea about what being safe and secure means. The door's locked, bills are paid, you've got a job that keeps the lights on, and a home to call your own. But what happens when Mother Nature throws a curveball?
I'm telling you to take cover.
Are you prepared to live without electricity or passable roads for weeks at a time? Do you even have a plan B? If you do, are you willing to bet your life on it?
Children left with no homes. And no one's coming to help them.
The first step towards self-reliance in the face of disaster is a visit to MyPatriotSupply.com. There you'll find the absolute best prices on storable foods, non-GMO seeds, emergency water filtration devices, and so much more. All orders over $49 qualify for free shipping in the lower 48 states. Call 866-229-0927. That's 866-229-0927 and speak to one of our preparedness advisors today, or visit us at MyPatriotSupply.com. Remember, before it's time to survive, it's time to prepare.
If you need to say happy birthday, happy anniversary, thank you, or simply I'm thinking of you, ProFlowers.com is the key. ProFlowers has stunning bouquets, like the best-selling 100 blooms for $19.99. Plus, ProFlowers will include a glass vase for free. Sending someone a wonderful surprise of beautiful flowers sent fresh from the fields is easy. Choose the bouquet you like, pick the delivery date, and each order is 100% guaranteed. Plus, all bouquets from ProFlowers are guaranteed to last at least 7 full days. Beautiful, fragrant flowers, picked fresh and sent to your loved one for lasting enjoyment. To get this incredible savings and send someone 100 gorgeous blooms with a free vase for $19.99, go to ProFlowers.com, click the blue microphone in the top right corner, and enter code PLOW. That's ProFlowers.com. Click the mic and enter code PLOW.
A little over a year ago, I began to do a lot of research into why, even though I had a pretty good-sized meal, that I was still starving. And my research led me to a well-known fact that most of the soils that we grow our crops on here in the United States and across the industrialized world are almost completely depleted of almost all of the key minerals and trace elements that our bodies need to rebuild themselves, fight off cancer, and be healthy. I then searched out the best vitamin and mineral company out there and discovered Youngevity. The Youngevity products are designed to give you the real nutrition you need, and once you've got that, you don't have to eat as much to be satisfied. I've lost 37 pounds in 2 months, simply getting the vitamins and minerals I need. Check it out for yourself. It's incredible. Go to InfoWarsTeam.com today and order your first canister of Beyond Tangy Tangerine Complete Multivitamin Mineral Complex Dietary Supplement. That's InfoWarsTeam.com.
Hi, this is nuclear physicist lecturer Stanton Friedman. You are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Yeah, it comes back to me now that you mentioned this case, but we have a lot of new listeners. We probably have like 10 times as many listeners now as we did way back in 2006, Don Ecker. So continue a little bit about this case, and then we'll get to the wrap-up stage.
Oh, yeah. We were standing there watching these 4 brilliant lights. They were like arc lights when this light in the rear suddenly shot like a rocket lifting off. But it went, it was poof, gone. And when that happened, the other 3 lights in a V formation suddenly hit a burst of speed that was unbelievable, and within seconds, they were out of sight. And, here were 4 high school kids with our jaws, Gene, down around our knees, could not believe what we just saw. I couldn't wait to get home and tell my parents about it. I turned on the radio. I looked for any mention of it. Of course, there was nothing. It was years later when I was doing a historical retrospective on that part of the country, which involved Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New Jersey, New York, and Ohio. I did not know it at the time. Nobody in the media ever mentioned it, but there was a genuine wave of UFO sightings that were happening over that entire geographical location of the country. And as a matter of fact, that was during the same time period that John Keel was having his adventures in West Virginia with the Mothman. So there was something going on in that part of the country that was unbelievable. But for the most part, other than if you were a witness that saw something, most people were not aware of it.
So many cases like that happen. Thanks for reminding us of it. This is something we can say is just off the presses. There's a story in the Wall Street Journal for Thursday, November 13th. Let me give you the headline. American cell phones targeted in secret U.S. spy program, subtitled Devices on Planes That Mimic Cell Phone Towers Used to Target Criminals, but also sift through thousands of other phones. Ouch.
Orwellian. I think I said that beginning of the show.
Yeah, but you did say Orwellian in the beginning of the show, and we might as well continue it. It's George Orwell 30 years later. It took 30 years for it to happen.
Yeah, and he never had a clue how Orwellian it was going to be.
Well, the whole story is presented in the Wall Street Journal, and this one paragraph comes to the fore. A Justice Department official would neither confirm nor deny the existence of such a program. Of course, right on. What did you expect?
Yeah, well, it kind of makes you want to go back to a tin can and a length of string, doesn't it?
Well, I think it sounds better. You have to look at it this way. Chris is using an advanced mobile computer, and the quality of sound on a really high-class network is superb. It really is. Sounds almost as good as having him in the studio. And we'll actually try that with Skype on next week's episode and see how much different it sounds than having him use a standard studio mic. Okay.
Right.
But now, Chris, say something, again, reminding our listeners about the digital haze.
Well, yeah, I'm up on the Santa Fe Mesa here, zipping around, taking care of business, enjoying the show with Don. Don, thanks for being on. I'm about ready to lose my battery, Gene. I don't know what to do. I have no place to recharge it here for the next 15 minutes. I don't know what to do.
What does it say in terms of the percentage?
It's just a little thin red line.
Okay, yeah. When it gets to red, it's usually under 20%. And there's an option on the iPhone to display a percentage. But usually it's like a gas tank in a car. The second half goes down a lot faster than the first half. Don't ask me to explain that.
I'll be hanging in there for the duration. I'm on my way to David Perkins' house. I'm looking forward to an interesting evening, tossing around some of the ideas that we're working on for the follow-up to Stalking the Herd. And if I can last to the end of the episode, I'm champing at the bit to do that. So.
Well, we only have 4.5 minutes left, so let's just see how long your iPhone 5S will last.
I think we're good.
Yeah, there you go. That's, of course, the bane of the existence of smartphones these days is the battery. That's the thing, of course, I always think here about Star Trek. I never heard of the Star Trek communicator ever running out of battery life. I never heard Captain Kirk say, the battery's about to go, Scotty.
Yeah, that's why, and I've never done it, but I've often thought that if I traveled more, the one thing you definitely have got to have is a car charger.
Well, with my car, I have a USB port. A lot of the cars these days have USB ports, so I can just plug that into what we call the lightning connector on the iPhone, and it will charge it. It'll keep it charged.
Well, my Jeep is so ancient, Gene, that I carry in my Jeep
a can and 2 pieces of wire.
No, an AC-DC converter. And I just plug it in. My Jeep has a cigarette lighter. I plug it into the cigarette lighter. Then I can plug my phone into it, and voila, I'm good to go.
That's fascinating. Okay. Well, these days you get yourself a best-selling book, and I wish you luck with that novel. Get yourself a big advance. Get yourself a brand new Jeep. They're really cool.
Hey, let me tell you what. I'm one of those guys that I learned a long time ago. I never count any chickens until those eggs hatch. And usually my eggs are stillborn. So.
Oh, man. Ouch. Don't tell Vicky that, or a reminder of that. Ouch.
Vicky is going to say you promised to make me a millionaire.
Yeah, she's great. She gives me my head, so there you go,
So how long have you guys been married now?
Well, let me see. In 5 days, we will have been together 26 years, but we will be married. We will be married 21 years in December.
Which day in December?
The 18th.
Ah, you're 5 days ahead of my anniversary. Isn't that coincidental?
Yep, the 18th. So we will have 21 years of pretty much marital bliss. But we've been an item for 26 years. So that's pretty good, I think.
That's a great record. I beat you by maybe a decade or so, but, I'm 1,000 years older. I'm actually 6,000 years old right now, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, you were there when the dinosaurs were running loose, right?
Well, that would be 6 million years.
Oh.
I think we got a couple of million that we've kind of missed up on.
65 million years, Gene.
Well, I'm being conservative. I didn't want to reveal the truth, Chris. Don Ecker, tell our listeners where they can find more of your stuff, especially Dark Matters Radio.
Dark Matters Radio runs Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Pacific until midnight, except Friday. We are 9 p.m. until 11 Pacific time. And you can go to the show live at www.dqradio.com. DQ, that's Delta Quebec, RM.com. And I am on Facebook with my Facebook page, Don Ecker. Also, Don Ecker's Dark Matters Radio has a page there on Facebook, and that's where I can be contacted.
You can find us on Twitter. We're known as the Paracast. Look for the Paracast on Twitter. Check plus.theparacast.com to learn how you can join the Paracast Plus, get the ad-free version of the Paracast chat rooms. A lot more to come. Plus.theparacast.com. And by the way, there is a Paracast fan club on Facebook. Chris O'Brien's site is OurStrangePlanet.com. OurStrangePlanet.com. Get a copy of his book from the site, Stalking the Herd, and he'll sign it, and he'll number it, and all that good stuff. And by the way, if you join our newsletter, sign for the newsletter at theparacast.com, we'll get you a copy of another book from Chris called Secrets of the Mysterious Valley. Don Ecker, thanks for joining us on the Paracast.
As always, Gene, a pleasure.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible, Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in The Paracast.